In this episode, I'm talking to Dominic Floyd, head of the prep school at Mount Kelly. We talk about a number of things in school, in education, but also a little bit about Dominic himself. Let's jump into this episode right now.
Welcome to Mount Kelly Conversations, the podcast from Mount Kelly in Devon. In each episode, we have conversations with pupils, with staff, and with other people in the school community to find out more about life at the school. Come with us now as we get right into this episode.
Dom, thank you for joining us on this episode of the School Podcast. How are you today?
I'm very well. Obviously, it's Monday, so there's a lot going on. So the wheels are turning fast.
Love that. Wheels turning fast, all good, lot going on. In that case, I do appreciate you being here and giving up some of your precious time to talk to us on this podcast. Now, in the intro that our listeners would have just heard, they would have heard me talk about Dominic Floyd, who I was just about to speak to. Now I'm talking to Dom Floyd. Are you Dom or Dominic as far as parents are concerned?
I think to most I'm Dom, and I think that's important at Mount Kelly because I think fundamentally it's about relationships as a head, building relationships with the parents and the children. And in this day and age, I think Dom is just a little less formal.
Yeah, I mean, it is good to be informal to build those relationships. I'm going to guess that you're Dom to your friends and maybe with your family or your other half at least when you're at home. Because I understand that you've got children. I'm guessing they don't call you Dom.
They certainly don't.
That'd be a bit
I'd
weird.
be mortified. I've got 3 children, 2 at university and 1 who's just joined the senior school at Mount Kelly. So they keep me busy and obviously happily married to Maria, my wife.
Fantastic. All right. Nice shout out to Maria. We're mostly, of course, talking about yourself and the school, but I must just ask you quickly, the 2 at university, which universities are they at?
So my eldest is at Exeter. He's doing French and Italian. He's just about to go to Italy. Lucky thing.
Nice. Wow.
For 7 months. And my middle daughter, is at Cardiff doing English literature and philosophy.
How bizarre. I'm sorry, I'm chuckling. My eldest is at Exeter and I've only got 2. My youngest is at Cardiff.
There
we go. There we go. I was there yesterday dropping them off for first year.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, let's bring it back to yourself and the school. Podcasting. Have you ever been on a podcast before?
A couple of times. Yes.
Nice.
Not recently, but a couple of times.
Okay. And do you listen to podcasts?
I do far too much. And my wife and I listen to a podcast almost every night before going to bed. It's very rock and roll. And we love, I particularly love the political ones. The rest is politics, newsagents, newscast, question time. Mm-hmm. So love dipping into those, occasionally some sports podcasts and occasionally some well-being ones as well.
Well-being. So anything Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, kind of thing?
Yeah. The only problem with Stephen Bartlett, they are just too long.
They are. They do go on. And for our listeners, thankfully, this episode is not going to be an hour and a half or 2 hours long, more like 20, 25 minutes.
It's hard finding the time. And the problem with going to bed to a podcast is that one falls asleep after about 3 minutes. But it's a restful end to the day.
Okay, tell me about yourself. How did you get into working in education in the first place? What was it that called you into it?
So I grew up in Oxford at the Dragon School. My father was a housemaster there. He then became a head of a Farley school in Hampshire. Oh, yeah. So I was born and bred into a busy boarding school in Oxford. And so I think that had a profound effect on who I am today and on my childhood. I had the happiest of childhoods, free, lots of cycling around, using all the facilities. I mean, it was halcyon days, amazing times, and my best mate was another house parent's son. So I think that had a big impact on me. I wanted to plough my own furrow as a young 20-something, but realistically, I think it came calling at the end of the day. My grandfather was a bishop as well, so I think that sort of vocation of giving to others and especially talking and shaping lives was quite a big part of why I ended up in teaching.
And when was it you joined Mount Kelly then?
2016, September.
Okay. And did you join as the prep head?
I did,
Or did you join? Okay,
yeah.
Right. Good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Mount Kelly, in particular the prep school. We have heard from Guy Ayling, regarding the senior school and about Mount Kelly in general. But it would be great to understand a bit more about prep school life and what that's really like.
Yeah, so the prep runs from the age of 4 to 13. It's a magical place, and it's a melange of my experiences as a child, but also as a teacher, and at the various schools that I've taught at in my career. We're blessed to be right on the doorstep of Dartmoor. Our grounds are spectacular. I would argue top 5 in the country. And they have all the raw ingredients for a magical childhood. And that's what we're trying to give the children here today. And that's one of academic rigor, but founded on curiosity, one of play, one of just tapping into all the different senses that helps shape them and form them, and one of opportunity. So we just try and give them as many opportunities as we can to help develop them, to help forge what they love, forge what their interests are, focus on what their weaknesses are.
And you say it goes from age 4 to 13. Some prep schools go up to age 11, of course, but this is more of a, if I say traditional, it could give the wrong impression that traditional means old-fashioned, but, a traditional style of prep schools originally did go up to age 13.
Yeah.
Tell me about why you feel that's a better way instead of it going up to age 11.
Oh, I think it's one of our key defining features at the prep, actually. Those 2 years from year 7 and 8 just give children a prolonged childhood, because they are operating within an environment where they know the teachers really well, they have opportunity for responsibility and leadership. It just holds off that diving into a much, much larger pool. And therefore, we can really help them as they start hitting adolescence and puberty. They're doing it in a very safe zone, but at the same time, they're able to stretch their horizons. And so those 2 years, I mean, even the difference in a child from the beginning of year 8 to the end of year 8 is unquantifiable. It's huge, and it's really difficult for parents to see that, and very difficult for us to market it. But we basically forge these wonderful, confident, charming, interesting, curious young 13-year-olds who haven't been affected by being invisible in a much, much larger school. And they still have the opportunity to sort of get on the stage, and the opportunity to perform, the opportunity to play sport, the opportunity to become a reading millionaire, or whatever it may be. There's something for everyone.
I mean, sometimes people say that this model means that children stay younger for longer. And I'm sure that's probably something that you'd agree with, but without wanting to put words in your mouth, though, of course, Dom. But do you think that generally speaking in society, in Western society, children grow up too quickly?
Way too fast. I think we've become obsessed with data and stats and is your child meeting this threshold? And we've forgotten the huge power of teaching children how to socialize, how to play. I mean, the word we used to be told at school back in the day in the 70s and 80s, you've got free time. You never hear that now. And I read a book in the summer holidays actually called The Anxious Generation. And it talks a lot about how restricted children have become in their play. And we've become increasingly anxious as parents in limiting what they can do, when they can do it, and who's supervising them. And yet we're quite happy to let them unfettered be on the internet in an unregulated world. So the importance of play for their development as young human beings is gigantic in my world. And that's what I think we do really, really well at the prep and at Mount Kelly, is we are giving these children a proper childhood, mixture of old-fashioned but also mixed in with the new, that enables them to learn how to be with each other and learn how to grow in a safe place.
It's really interesting you are highlighting the importance of play there, because schools generally, whether it's an independent state, international boarding, UK or whatever, most schools do tend to jump quite quickly to promoting the academic success of the children who come through, and also possibly talking about how they emerge as confident young people, which is all great stuff. But not too many schools tend to talk about play. and the importance of play. Tell me a little bit more about Mount Kelly and where and how children are encouraged and allowed to play in order for their development to progress.
Yeah, I mean, in the raw form, their break times, as I will say to any prospective parent, are just as important as academic lessons for a number of reasons. One, the fresh air and exercise means they'll be better focused in the classroom. But as importantly, of course, it's supervised, but they have the run of the grounds. We call, outside my window just here is we call it sunny slopes. And they sort of slope down to the bottom of the playing fields. And it's idyllic. It's an oasis for them. They can play top trump cards. They can play football. They can read a book. They can run around. They play in the rhododendron bushes. They climb trees. And they fall over and they have disagreements. And this is where we are very careful that we keep them in sight. But it's really important in an ideal world that the children try and resolve some of those issues themselves. And of course, we're there to help. We are the scaffolding for them. So they know where to come if they need us. But it's such an important part of their childhood and growing up. We also have a lot of onus on what we call Shackleton, which is an outdoor program, trying to stretch them with different opportunities. And it's not just abseiling down a cliff face. It's about how they relate to each other. And how they resolve problems and work together and collaborate. So Shackleton is a sort of wonderful thing. We use the Dartington estate, and they go off site and they'll do different activities. We also have what we call LOTC, which is learning outside the classroom. And the message to the staff is get them outside, use our grounds, use every inch of the grounds, get them down to the river, get them down to the lake or the bird hide. Get them to the adventure play area. It's there's so much for the children to do. It really, and what it does is it creates an environment that is essentially very happy, but it's a wonderful community where we look out for each other. We're on the same side. We're here to build each other up. We're not here to knock each other down. And of course, there are bumps along the way, and that's part of their learning. And we're here to facilitate that growth and help them through it.
Bumps along the way. I love that. And when you mentioned Shackleton, I'm guessing that's reference to Ernest Shackleton.
It is.
Yeah.
So again, slightly traditional because there are so many different forms of adventure and adventurers. But I think his story is inspirational, just in survival, if nothing else, and keeping together a crew of 20 plus seamen for 2 years on an ice cap. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. Incredible. People often talk about resilience. There's a classic case there of perfect resilience and what we can learn from it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about boarding at Mount Kelly Prep. First of all, roughly how many of the children board? Just roughly sort of percentage terms.
Last year we had 74% of the prep school boarded. That was from year 3 up to year 8. So at least they spent at least one night in the boarding house, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. So we have our full boarders, we have weekly boarders, we have flexi boarding. Mm-hmm. Flexi boarding is increasingly popular, but we also have sort of themed sleepovers where year groups can come in and stay, and they do get up to all sorts, from slip and slide to swimming to go-karting to and amazing food, and essentially an incredible sleepover, which gives the parents a rest, but the children have a great time with their friends.
And I'm guessing that breakdown then, I'm going to guess that the flexi boarders, they generally live quite close to school. Maybe the weekly boarders possibly generally live a little bit further away, but could be quite local as well. And then the full boarders could be local, but could also be international. Is that right? Yeah.
So in all, we have about 25 full boarders, and they will come. Some of them are swimmers, some of them live further afield in the southwest, and some of them are overseas. So there's a really nice mixture there. The weeklies, again, can be local, can be slightly further afield. We have a few swimmers, obviously, with our swimming program. So we can sort of wrap everything into one, and mums and dads aren't having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
There's a serious plus right there, isn't there?
which is very appealing. But and again, fundamentally, the boarding communities, it's a small one, but it's a family. It's lots of different ages, from 7 to 13. Wonderful house parents, young, lots of energy. And that sort of boarding ethos runs through the school, although predominantly the prep is day.
And then when it comes to weekends, those who are full boarders and staying there for the weekend, what do those children get up to?
So they have their house parents on a Saturday morning if they're not involved in sports fixtures. So they'll get up to a variety of activities on a Saturday morning, like cooking or a walk in the woods, or building stones down by the river, or even watching some of the fixtures.
Brilliant.
In the afternoon, they love going to Tavistock. They love a little bit of shopping, a lot of tootling around. So that's a very popular activity. And then on the Sunday, we deliberately try and get them off site. So they'll always do something off site. They'll do some trips. So last weekend was Sea Fest in Plymouth. The weekend before that was the Adrenaline Quarry, where they're jumping off rocks and inflatable things in the lake. And so they have a really good time. And we make sure they have a really good time, so that they are the envy of the school, and we get more boarders in, which they love. And again, it's forming that independence away from mum and dad. It gives them that important lesson of starting to trust other adults. And that's something we focus on a lot here as well, just building trust in others, that they will help you out when you reach out, and people like to help.
Dom, you strike me, I hope you don't mind me saying, you strike me as a very positive, optimistic kind of person. Is that true?
I'd love to hear what my wife would say, but I hope so. For me, schools should be really positive places. They should be full of optimism, and that needs to come from the top. And the convictions need to be there that what we're doing is amazing, extraordinary. And I would say to anyone, you come and visit Mount Kelly Prep, because it is a magical place. It's really special, especially in this day and age where I think children are bombarded with so many negative things, and whether it's smartphones, whether it's what they see on TV or on the internet, and I think we need to be really conscious of that. So I feel a really strong moral duty to give these children, I suppose, the childhood that I had, which was glorious, and it was really, really special.
So tell me then just 2 or 3 things that you love about working in education.
I love seeing the children grow. What's really special about working at a tied school is that you can see that quite often in prep, certainly in standalone prep schools, you send the children off, you never see them again. And it's just brilliant to see the children grow through their teens and knock on the window as they're passing by, or wave at you, and see how they develop and how they grow, because essentially we're here to give them the head start. So that's really special. I think the relationship between the children and teachers is really special, and building that trust and seeing their joy when they experience new things and they come back and say, wow, that was the most amazing day I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
And you're just like, yes, that's, and little victories, some of the children that find life challenging, or some of the children that sit in the middle and sit under the radar a little bit, trying to eke out the best for them and really get to know them and champion them. And we talk a lot about championing the children here. And we talk to the staff, I talk to the teachers that, their job as a tutor is to champion every tutee that they are responsible for that year, and to get to know them inside out, and to show parents that we get them. And we'll work with the parents to make sure that they feel 10 feet tall, but on a sort of proper, solid foundation, not just on any excuse to award them a medal or a house point. It's got to be founded on real sort of success and small achievements.
Yeah, so not like one of those situations where everybody who's running in the race goes home with a medal, even if they came last and put in no effort at all. I'm not saying that everyone who comes last puts in no effort. Sometimes people put in a lot of effort and come last, but that model of everybody receiving something, which I think virtually everyone agrees is not the right way to bring up children.
No, and I think there's a real sea change in that, actually. I think 10 years ago we moved towards this sort of praising every child, and I don't think that does them any favours. We reward effort and we reward attitude.
Yeah.
And that's really important, that it's awarded across the spectrum of disciplines. So it's not it's very easy to give somebody a medal in sport. It's far harder to give them something for their artistic or creative talent. But that is equally important.
Okay, so Dom, tell me something about this. I believe that you're the chair of the education committee for the IAPS, that's the Independent Association of Prep Schools.
That's right.
What's that all about, and how does that help in your role as head of prep school at Mount Kelly?
It's been fascinating, actually. Initially, I was on the board, the education committee, for 3 years, and then for the last 2 years, I've been the chair. And I think personally, and for Mount Kelly, it's been really good exposure to other prep schools in the country. Some of them from London, some of them from the north, some of them from the southeast. And so there's been a really eclectic mix of very, very different prep schools, but all fundamentally working off the same values. So that's been really positive, meeting and mixing with other colleagues at that level. And then more importantly, really having an impact on my colleagues, fellow heads, and sharing outstanding practice. So we now we visit other schools who have significant strengths, and we delve into that, and we witness it firsthand, and then we feed back to our districts within IAPS. And that's been a fairly new initiative in the last 6 months, which has been really well received by other heads.
That strikes me as a wonderful environment where you're meeting up with other heads of other prep schools and sharing good ideas, good practices in each of your schools, where, I'm thinking an equivalent situation in business. You'd never get, CEOs of different companies that are offering fundamentally the same service or product or whatever to their customers. You'd never get them meeting up and sharing good ideas and good practices there. There's a real fundamental difference here, isn't there? And I imagine that it's to do with putting the children at the center of everything.
Yeah, it's IAPS is very special, actually. There are about over 600 members, of all of whom are heads, and that's internationally as well. And we all share a really strong drive, all of us, and many of us know it's a small community. Many of us know each other because we've worked together in previous schools and seen each other sort of go up the ladder. But there's huge diversity in how we offer a prep education, and just to share those ideas, to see innovators outside of our four walls come in and pitch their product as well is fascinating. So it's very collegiate. It's a real fellowship, and it's a very positive, unusual thing, as you say. I think certainly in this sector.
Okay, keeping an eye on time, we're going to need to bring this episode to a close in a moment. But one last question. I'm dying to know a little bit more about you. I know that you like listening to podcasts. I know that you've got 3 children, and you've mentioned Maria as well, so a second shout out to her. What else do you get up to when you're not in school, though?
So it's a very difficult job to switch off from, because it is 7 days a week, and we often sort of refer to it as like being on an oil rig during the term time. But I love live music, so Maria and I will do our best to sort of get to listen to live music when we can. There's a couple of great venues in Plymouth. If I'm lucky and I can get away, I will visit Home Park, the mighty home to Plymouth Argyle. And that's a fantastic switch off. It's another world. And I love that. I really love that. Getting to the sea, playing tennis, any racket sport, table tennis, badminton, squash, although less squash these days with a dodgy hip.
And if I asked you one of your favourite bands that you've seen, either recently or a long time ago, what would you say?
My wife and I, we went to see Snow Patrol in Limerick, just at the start of the summer holidays. So that was the most recent, and they were fabulous. And then before that, probably Coldplay, which again was sensational.
Coldplay, always good. I think a lot of people can associate with that. Dom, just a final thing. If anyone's heard anything here and if they wanted to get in touch with you directly, how could they do that?
So they can either contact the school or they can contact me via my email, floyd@mountkelly.com. And I always love hearing from anybody, whether they're interested in the school or whether they're interested in what we do. I love meeting new people, listening to their stories, and essentially that's what we're trying to create here is many different kinds of stories and memories and friendships.
I love that. Okay, that's great. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. But in the meantime, Dom Floyd, it's been great talking to you as head of Mount Kelly Prep. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Simon. Thanks.